Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where I shake my brain nipples so that I can pay for your education. Very excited that SiliconDojo.com, we are having our first in-person class in quite a while. It is going to be in Durham, North Carolina, at a place called American Underground, coming up on October 8th. And if you're interested in attending that, please go to SiliconDojo.com to sign up. It is an in-person class, and I'm doing these types of videos so that I can afford to teach you this kind of information. I have a feeling I don't fully understand how capitalism works yet. I am working really hard to provide you quality education. Anywho, I think this is an interesting story coming from Trump and Microsoft. And basically, I wonder what is going to be happening going into the future as Trump starts calling for retribution against any number of different people. And in the previous number of years, all of the big tech companies tried to prove that they are on the right side of history. And I think currently with the Trump administration, if you are on the right side of history, that means you're on the wrong side of his punishments or whatever else. I've talked about this before, where it was really weird after George Floyd, like with BLM, right? Black Lives Matter, where you would go and all these big tech companies, they would just shove BLM stuff into the weirdest places. Like I would go to Apple Music. I have an Apple Music subscription. I've used Apple Music for years. I listen to it when I run. I would go to Apple Music because I wanted to add a couple of songs. And all of a sudden, there's all this BLM stuff all over my Apple Music screen. And I'm literally just trying to figure out how to get to my Morgan Wallen songs. I don't actually like Morgan Wallen, that's a joke. But anyways, right? It was like weird, like everything was plastered everywhere because all of these big tech companies wanted to prove they were with the Biden administration. Well, a funny thing happened last November. The Biden administration lost, pretty badly. Anyways, now we have the Trump administration in there. And the Trump administration, right, doesn't simply want to scrub DEI and that type of thing, but it actually wants to punish people that supported it. And so I think this is going to be interesting going forward and seeing what the Trump administration does to these large technology companies and how it affects these large technology companies. And one of the things I've talked about for a while now is this curious thing with Microsoft and Gaza, right? Where so many Microsoft employees are protesting that Microsoft's systems are supporting the genocide in Gaza. And the curious part is not necessarily that they're protesting, but that nobody else is protesting, right? Literally, right? Right now, we have just learned that Microsoft is going to stop providing services to this Division 8200 or whatever. And basically, Israel's just said, we're going to go to AWS. Fine, if you won't take our billions of dollars, AWS will. And you know what's really curious about this? I'm not hearing anything in the news about Amazon employees protesting AWS making billions of dollars off of genocide, right? It's this weird world that we're in where some people in the technology world are political, a lot of people are not. The people that are political in different ways. And you just kind of wonder how all of this is going to wash out, especially with these trillion-dollar companies. I think Microsoft right now, it goes up and down. I think they were like worth $3 trillion. And so you have the Trump administration with, they're trying to eliminate DEI. At the exact same time, they're tariffing the hell out of countries. At the exact same time, they're trying to reshore. At the exact same time, they're going to war against Portland. Have you heard this? I can't go into it because it really doesn't have a damn thing to do with technology. But apparently we're going to war against Portland. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. So anyways, what's curious to think about is how how these technology companies navigate this very insane, bizarre world that we're currently in. And so this is where we come to CNBC, and Trump calls for the firing of Lisa Monaco, Microsoft President of Global Affairs. So this is an employee of Microsoft. In her previous position, she did things that Trump doesn't like, ergo, he wants her terminated. And this is the curious thing with the Trump administration, where we haven't seen a lot before. I'm not saying we haven't seen it at all before, but where Trump really feels like he should have the power over everything, right? I've talked about this before, where he literally thinks he should be able to dictate the recipe of Coca-Cola. That is not an Onion article. He literally said he had a conversation with Coke about the recipe of Coca-Cola. And you're like, when in the history of this country did the President of the United States have authority over the recipes of soda pop? But anyways, that is the amount of authority he feels that he should have. And so it'll be curious to see going forward, right? So we have all of these tech companies, right, for 4 years, right? They were doing the frog march to DEI. Everything was DEI, 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 right? BLM, Black Lives Matter. No more time for white comfort. Yeah. And then Trump gets elected. And I don't know, all these big tech companies are buying a shit ton of Uggs. Because, well, maybe white people should be comfortable after all. But it's just like this weird, right? We're in this, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Eli, why do you keep talking about politics? Because sadly it matters. Sadly, again, in the 2000s, if I had done these videos in the 2000s, I'm not really sure what I would have said about politics. All right, Obama, Bush. However you feel about Bush, as far as technology is concerned, I mean, I'm sure there's a couple of laws in there, but not many. Obama did some stuff, but again, there wasn't a lot about tech. Holy shit. Basically, since 2016, again, Trump, Biden, now Trump again. It is amazing how much of our technology world is going to be pushed by people that don't know the fucking difference between an Utz and a Xeon. That's the truth. That's the truth. Anyways, so let's see here on CNBC. President Donald Trump on Friday demanded that Microsoft fire Lisa Monaco, an executive who served as Deputy Attorney General during the Biden administration. And so this is a curious thing too. Again, it's one of those like, this would be good if it wasn't bad. Where one of the issues we have in life, right, is we have all of these government officials, all these government employees, right? They leave an administration and then they go to big corporations. And then once they go into the big corporations, those large corporations now have an end to the government, right? This is a bad thing. This is a bad thing. I think like for these government employees, they should be barred from doing that thing for like 5 or 10 years or something. So, I mean, on one hand, right, not having government people go into the big tech is probably a good thing in a way. But I do think this is kind of interesting, though, again, this person being under the Biden administration. And you wonder how far this is going to go, right? Think about all the Biden administration officials, right? So you have all these big technology companies that are doing the whole DEI mantra. Biden leaves. Administration officials probably go to these big technology companies because they're all on the same page. And then the book changes. And then their book changes. And so I do wonder how far this will go. If Trump can get Lisa Monaco fired, who else can he get fired? And that becomes a very, very curious thing. The request appeared on Trump's Truth Social account, which has 10 million followers. It comes one day after FBI Director James Comey was indicted, days after Trump pushed to prosecute him. Quote, "She is a menace to U.S. national security, especially given the major contracts that Microsoft has with the United States government." This is going to be other interesting thing with these big technology companies, is they have so many contracts with the U.S. government now, right? So if you go back about 10 years ago, right, you had cloud infrastructure, right? Software as a service, really IaaS, infrastructure as a service. And so a lot of these AWS, Azure, these types of companies were trying to figure out basically how to pad their bottom line. And so what they realized is that they could get the government on board. If they can start getting the government as the customer, right, that is a hell of a lot of guaranteed money, right? You have to modify your systems a little bit. You have to build some special data centers. You have to do some special things if you're going to work for the government. But once you get that government contract, motherfucker, you are locked in forever, for a millennia, right? What becomes interesting now, especially with the Trump administration, is that those are major profit centers for these corporations, for AWS, for Azure, for many of these other technology companies. And so if he is willing to wield the stick, right, because he doesn't know the fucking difference between an Utz and a Xeon, right? He's a senile old loser. He's cracked out in Diet Coke half the time. He doesn't fucking understand what's going on, nor does he give a shit what happens to our country, right? He has proven that at this point. And so think about this. If he can hold the stick over Microsoft of, if you do not fire who I tell you to fire, I will kill your contract, right? And he doesn't give a fuck what happens to the government. He will destroy the government. He will destroy our country because he's doing whatever the hell he's doing, right? So it becomes an interesting issue for Microsoft, for Amazon, for Cisco, for a lot of these big technology companies where they should be relatively separate, right? Government really doesn't have a say on our employees, right? If the employee is actually on the government contract, now that's a real thing, right? If the employee is assigned to the NSA contract or the DoD contract or the EPA contract or one of these, right? Like maybe there is something for the government to say, right? There's a conflict of interest with that particular person, or that particular person hasn't gone through the right, security hoops or whatever else. But if you're just talking about the global affairs, this is right, she's up here. She's up here away from all this horse crap, right? If Trump can come in and use that stick of threatening government contracts for Microsoft, then the question that happens is who gets fired next, and 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 who gets hired, and who gets hired. And this, oh Lordy. Oh, Lordy. Have I said how much I dislike this particular timeline? Anyways, Trump wrote in a post, quote, because of Monaco's many wrongful acts, the U.S. government recently stripped her of all security clearances. Because Trump is a bitch-ass, whiny, fucking senile loser of a baby, right? A lot of people have been stripped of their security clearances because he's having a whine fucking fest. Again, he's not actually stating what she's done. He's stating, I don't like her, I've punished her, ergo she should starve to death. Because that's what the President of the United States should be like. Right? Stripped her of all security clearances, took away all her access to national security intelligence, and banned her from all federal properties. Earlier on Friday, Fox Business anchor Maria Bartiromo published on X post about Monaco joining Microsoft. The appointment happened in July, according to Monaco's LinkedIn profile. The post contained a link to a July article on the University of Chicago Law School's website. So yeah, this is going to get to be curious. How long do we have? Hey, it's less than 3.5 years. We have less than 3.5 years of this. Not sure what comes after this, but at least this we have less than 3.5 years. And so this is going to be an interesting thing with kind of think about going into the future, right? One of the problems that we saw under the Biden administration, again, is things like DEI hires, right? A lot of people that were not qualified for positions were hired because of traits. And this is a bad thing all the way around, right? It's a bad thing. Don't do that. I think that what's curious now is basically what Trump is doing is like, right? The idea here is no, you are hiring for the wrong traits, right? The right traits that we want are these other things. Which again is going to become interesting when you think about how much these big technology companies control, right? Again, you go back 20 years, right? Microsoft with Outlook. I didn't give a fuck about the politics of Microsoft. Who cared? It was Outlook. Right? Whether Microsoft was being run by the Dalai Lama or it was being run by David, what is his name? The Grand Pumbaa of the KKK, Outlook was fucking Outlook. Right? Word was Word, right? Exchange server was pain in the ass, whoever the fuck wrote the code. What becomes interesting nowadays, and one of the big issues, is with these as-a-service models, infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service, metal as a service, all these as-a-service models. The thing is that these companies always have a little bit of control. They always have a little bit of ways to touch whatever the hell it is that you're doing, right? So think about this even with Israel, right? Israel with their Unit 8200 that was collecting data, right? If they had simply purchased Microsoft server licenses and spun up their own data center, Microsoft wouldn't be part of that conversation. We buy licenses from CDW and we spin up servers. If Microsoft doesn't like it, fuck off. We'll buy another 1,000 licenses. Thank you. Right? That was a nice part. Remember the days of business when you didn't have to like the people that you were doing business with? You were trying to accomplish something, they were trying to accomplish something. You could literally walk in and be like, hey, you piece of shit garbage that your mama should have aborted at the 50th trimester. I hope you die today. And here's $10,000. Thank you. Right? Remember those days? I miss those days. I miss the days when I could work with people I hated. It sounds so fucked up to say, but it's true. I miss those days so much. But anyways, right? We're now in this era of everybody has to like everybody else, right? And you can't sell to people that you dislike. And so it's curious, right? So we've had all of this DEI push over the past 5, 6, however many years, all right? And so what's gonna be interesting now is as we see the pendulum swing dramatically into the other, the other direction. Again, think about these with these communication platforms, right? If you're speaking out against the Trump administration, right? If you believe he's a senile old loser, if you believe he's half a fucking step to being a traitor to this country, right? If you're using communication platforms, right? Are you going to be able to continue to communicate? Like, I remember it was like weird, right? The tech world has been bizarre over the past 10 years. All this shit's been bizarre. I can't wait till the turkey hits the ground. Don't get me wrong. I like the turkey. The turkey's a really fucking nice turkey. If you had gotten to know the turkey before they put a rocket on its back, you would understand what a caring, compassionate turkey that is. But I gotta admit, I'm getting to the point, I can't fucking wait till that turkey hits the ground. It's gonna be brutal and it's gonna be bloody and I'm gonna shed some fucking tears when that turkey dies a horrible god-awful death because the motherfucker was never able to fly. Somebody just strapped a turkey to it. But maybe when that turkey finally burns into the ground, we can get back to reality. Anyways, right? I remember when the tech companies were just tech companies. They were just normal evil. They were just normal evil. But I think about like with Meetup, right? So I use Meetup, right? So for silicondojo.com, for Silicon Dojo, I use Meetup. I've used Meetup for many years. And that was one of the interesting things with Meetup, right? So Meetup is a software as a service platform, right? It's a community as a service, whatever kind of platform type thing. But like when Trump was elected, right? They were literally pushing, quote unquote, resist meetups. They were like, and this was like in your fucking, it was like the BLMs, it was in your face. It's like, hey, I want to see if anybody's having a meetup on Ansible, because that sounds interesting. And it's like, don't you want to join Resist? I know, I want to know about Ansible. That's all I want. How the fuck do I get away from this? So, again, right? Because the people on the right side here, that's good. That's good. Look, Eli, I voted for Biden. Eli, I am on the right side of history. So when Meetup pushes into everybody's face the idea that they should resist the elected president of the United States, that is a great thing. And everybody, the right side of history agrees, right? The big tech company agrees. Everybody agrees. Here's the thing. Here's the thing, boys and girls. Here's the thing. What happens when the other side gets power? What happens when the other side fucking spikes the pendulum into your nutsack? Then what is Meetup gonna start promoting? That's where I get worried with this. Can we just go back to platforms? Can we just go back to platforms and technology and fucking protocols? You use the protocol how you want to use the protocol. And if you use it illegally, the fucking FBI will break your door down. I miss those days. So anyways, I think this is going to be curious, right? As the Trump administration starts to try to put more and more power, push more and more directly onto the companies themselves, what'll happen there? Now, you know, we've seen this like with the tariffs, right? So Apple, so there's supposed to be, I get so confused with these tariffs, right? I'm a computer guy, not a tariff guy. I get so, I think there's 100% tariff on CPUs. As far as I've been able to gather, there's like 100% tariff on CPUs. But Apple gets to get out of the 100% tariff on CPUs because they've promised to invest $600 billion in the United States for manufacturing. They've actually invested $2.5 billion in the United States, but they've promised to invest $600 billion, right? And that's the thing. Like, the companies literally have to slobber over the bastard's ring in order to do business, and these companies are vital to modern society. So anyways, what do you think about this? What do you think about Trump calling for the firing of Lisa Monaco, Microsoft President of Global Affairs? Because she was with the Biden administration, and that be bad. What do you think about Trump getting more and more into to trying to control how these companies actually work? And as funny as that sounds, remember, he honestly believes he should be able to tell Coca-Cola what the recipe of Coke should be. What do you think about this timeline? What do you think about this timeline? Have you found an exit yet? Seriously, you can tell me, between you and me, have you found an exit to this timeline yet? Anyways, put your thoughts down below. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. If you hate these videos, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing, call me a moron. Just be a big dog and do it down there in the comment section. Do remember SiliconDojo.com is out there. You can go to SiliconDojo.com to see the free education that I'm offering in Durham, North Carolina. We're doing a lot of other cool stuff too. So go to SiliconDojo.com. And with that, I'll see you later.